One-time foes share the stage and talk about uniting Canada. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
All the news you need to know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
They were once fierce rivals in the political arena, but now they are preaching unity. Former Prime Minister Stephen Harper and Jacques Chrétien shared the stage in Ottawa last night. Mr. Harper is being honored this week. His official portrait will be unveiled at a ceremony on Parliament Hill later today. Last night, Mr. Harper was given the gold medal from the Royal Canadian Geographical Society. That's its highest honor in recognition of his career in public service. During a 30-minute back and forth with his one-time rival, Mr. Chrétien, Stephen Harper said the world right now is seeing a rise in nationalism. And he said Canadians shouldn't be afraid to be proud of their country.
And there is no reason why this country should not be as nationalistic as anyone else. We have a lot to be proud of. It's a tremendous country. I think just about any person and almost anywhere in the world would love to be here, to have the circumstances of our country. Well, we have a great history. Obviously, we have a great land, a tremendous, gift of Providence. Great land, but we have a great history. And, there's been so much emphasis in the past, let's say decade, about all the things we've done wrong. Okay, fine. But look, all the things we've done wrong have been things that like the things we've done right, that we have built upon. We've corrected mistakes, and we've built, I think, quote Mr. Chrétien, the best country in the world. So, let's be proud. And our pride doesn't have to be just, not liking Donald Trump. We should be proud in who we are as a people and as a nation.
For his part, Mr. Chrétien seemed to share that view, saying Canada spends too much time looking back.
So if we were to look at what we've built together, rather than what divides us, it is the problem. And be proud of what we can offer. When you're in the geographic business, apparently, so I claim that when I was Minister of Indian and Northern Affairs, responsible for park, and when I was Prime Minister, I made more land aside for conservation and national park than the number of acres they have in France. And you did a bit of that too. So, we're the only country who can talk like that. And we have to be proud, We're a political opponent, but we're not enemies, not today. Anyway.
Mr. Chrétien went on to make a bold claim that what the world is witnessing is the end of the American empire.
I think that we're living a very important time in the world. It's a big shift. It is probably what I would call the beginning of the end of the American empire. And it has to come. All the empires change. So now, it's accelerating. But we are in a very good position because we have the land, we have, the best educated people in the world. Do you know that? And we have the tolerance that is a great value. We are the sharing that does not exist in many other countries. We have less very, very rich people per capita, but less very, very poor people too in Canada. And we have the unity that we have to fight all the time about that.
On the issue of separatism and the possibility of independence votes being held in both Alberta and Quebec, Mr. Harper told a story about bumping into a prominent Quebec separatist at the Ottawa airport.
It's actually the airport here in Ottawa. I won't name the name, but I ran into somebody who is a very, very prominent long-term separatist. And he was saying to me, we were chatting, what do you think, this is several months ago, Harper, about what President Trump's doing. And we chatted for a moment, and I ended by saying, I say, this is the reason why we have to stick together. And he lowered his voice and said to me, I think you're right. Woo.
And Mr. Harper advised the current government to avoid ideological tangents.
You know, in our time in office, myself and colleagues here, you know, Quebec, the support for Quebec sovereignty went to its lowest level since the early 1960s. And support for Western separatism vanished completely. So, you know, look, there are people obviously in both parts of the country who think differently, but I think the reality is federal government manages this country right, puts the stress on unity and not on ideological tangents, and there's no reason why we can't pull the country together at this moment.
The ceremony today for Mr. Harper's portrait unveiling on Parliament Hill is at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, so in less than 4 hours from now. The current Prime Minister, Mark Carney, is scheduled to be there, and he will make a few remarks. They will not take any questions from news reporters. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
You have questions
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
on News Radio.
Well, he's with us every week to talk about some of the big issues of the day. Professor Ian Lee is back with us. He's with the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. Welcome back.
My pleasure, Rob.
Yeah, good to hear from you.
Yes,
Let's
my pleasure.
review some of the things that the government has tried to do to lower prices at the grocery store. It's a hot issue these days. It expanded the mandate of the Competition Bureau to investigate price fixing after the bread price fixing scandal. It enacted a grocery code of conduct, although it's voluntary. It tried to convince foreign grocers to enter Canada. You remember Francois-Philippe Champagne? That was a big goal of his. Let's get Aldi, the big German company, into Canada. It didn't seem to go anywhere. There was the Trudeau government's GST holiday, and now there's an enhanced GST rebate. It's been rebranded as the Groceries and Essentials Benefit. The latest reading on food inflation in Canada, Professor, was 6.2%, well above the overall rate of inflation. Why is food inflation, in your opinion, so high, and why have none of these government actions worked?
As you can imagine, Rob, there's multiple reasons. It's not something singular and simplistic, like they're all cooking the books to conspire. I know there's Canadians who believe that, some, because they write me emails, and I don't believe it. The evidence of the bread was from 30 years ago, when the society was vastly simpler and supply chains were vastly simpler, and we didn't have the digital economy where everything is digitized and everything is searchable. To organize a conspiracy, and I'll be very quick on this, but to organize a conspiracy of that magnitude, you have to have thousands of people involved. And the idea that thousands of people can keep a secret for years and years and years because they're all cooking the books to put the prices up is beyond delusional. You have to be really almost insane to believe that you can get thousands of people to have a secret conspiracy and it never leaks. It's much more complex.
Well, they did fix the price of bread, though. I mean, that's not in doubt. Loblaws had to pay a huge fine and give everyone a gift card. Well, whether it was 30 years ago or 30 days ago, they were still fixing them. And it wasn't just the price of loaves of bread. It was the entire bread aisle. And all kinds of companies were involved in it.
Rob, grocery stores
Like
sell
it
over
happened.
3 to 5. They sell 3,000 to 5,000 products, okay? To organize a conspiracy to cook all the prices across the entire chain is beyond delusional. Sorry, it is. I worked in a bank for 9 years, and we didn't have 5,000 products or 3,000 products. And the idea, and we were accused all the time of, conspiring with the other banks to fix the mortgage rates at the same rate. The nature of any modern business, especially now it's digitized, that's why I keep saying it's so difficult to cheat on your taxes. Everything is recorded digitally, including supply chains, including prices. And so I just completely, I would bet my house, and I don't gamble at all. I don't buy any kind of, lottery tickets or whatever, on betting on sports or whatever. Okay.
Right.
So I think that's out. The StatsCan has studied this, and so has the Bank of Canada. They've actually published on this. And they said there's a multiplicity of things, interruptions of the supply chain, of course, and COVID, energy. People don't realize, and I've been saying this for a long time, food requires a lot of energy to create food, all the way back upstream to the tractors, to the farmers. And the idea that, because I've actually heard people say, well, let's just get off fossil fuels. The idea that you can buy these giant combines to run on flashlight batteries, okay, a bigger battery than a flashlight, is, again, silly. They don't exist.
Sure.
So we have to use fuel, and the fuel is, as we know, fossil fuels are expensive. And that's just upstream the farmers. Then you got to ship it, and the most food goes by trucks, and trucks run on diesel. And those refrigerators in every grocery store have to run 24 hours, 7 days a week, or the food spoils. So I'm not trying to defend them. I'm simply stating the obvious that there's a multiplicity of factors. One more thing that's really important, and the Bank of Canada brought this out, so did TD Economics, and so did StatsCan. The Americans, which is a much, much larger country, are experiencing very similar food inflation. So then the conspiracy people have to argue that not only is everybody in Canada in the food business, and the farmers and the suppliers and the supply chains, they're all in cahoots. Now they're in cahoots with millions of Americans. This is just too silly, okay? It's beyond silly. There are factors, and the COVID was a big one for interrupting it. And then interest rates went up, inflation went up, and energy uses a lot of energy. And it's going to take time to to bring it back down. And they're working on it. It will come back down, but it's not going to come down overnight.
Still 6.2%. 6.2%. I mean, it's tough out there. You do realize it's difficult for a lot of people, right?
It's very difficult for a lot of people. And that's why I was so, Rob, I'm sorry, but I want to bring this up. Way back when, and I was talking to you at the time, when they first drove the interest rates down to almost zero. And I said in real time, not 2 years later when I saw the impact, I said, this is extremely dangerous. I said, because they are going to let the inflation genie out of the bottle. And I also said that about shutting down everybody and sending everybody home. I said, the only people at risk, and I got attacked by all kinds of people saying, you're not a doctor. What do you know about people getting sick and dying? I'm an older guy. Okay. And I said, young people, you can get cheap life insurance because young people hardly ever die. Guess who dies? Older people. Over 65 when the stats finally came out. So what did we do? We locked up all the young people and which was nutty.
I guess, but the pandemic was 3 years ago, and we're still dealing with a food inflation rate of 6%.
We learned this. Once you let the inflation genie out of the bottle and it works all the way through the economy, it takes years to get the damn genie back into the bottle. How did we do it in 1981? I'll tell you how we did it. Ronald Reagan and the central bank, the Federal Reserve, said we're going to drive interest rates so high, we're going to kill inflation and in the process destroy a lot of people and a lot of businesses. They drove interest rates to 21%.
Well, yeah, we did the same thing here.
And even that took 4 years. That took 4 years, and we certainly didn't drive it to 21%. So I could get rid of inflation tomorrow morning, put me in charge of the central bank, I'll drive interest rates up to 10 or 12 or 15. And I'll bet you in 2 years I can get it down to 2, including food.
Yeah, at what cost, I suppose. All right, when we come back, what is the role of a pension fund? Is it to invest into things the government thinks the pension fund should be investing in? Or is it to invest in stable investments and gather returns so the pension fund can meet its obligation to its pensioners? We'll talk about this when we come back, with the Canadian government wanting pension funds to invest in things like affordable housing, for example, with Professor Ian Lee from the Bratt School of Business at Carleton University, here on News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
Back with Professor Ian Lee from the Bratt School of Business at Carleton University with us every Tuesday. Gregor Robertson, Canada's Minister of Housing, wants to convince Canadian pension funds to invest in affordable housing. What do you think of that?
I think it's an absolutely dangerous and barking dog mad idea. That's why pension funds typically are set up at arm's length from management of corporations and from politicians, because we have a high degree of confidence that they will screw it up like this man is, and trying to interfere with the fiduciary responsibilities enshrined in legislation, federally and provincially, for decades in Canada, the U.S., and elsewhere. that politicians should not be allowed to go anywhere near pension funds because they will use it for their pet project du jour, which often involves helping out their friends. It's a kissing cousin of corruption. No, I'm not accusing him of being corrupt. I'm saying that politicians are self-interested and they like to get reelected because they like their nice jobs. And so they don't mind if they are screwing up a pension plan and hurting the thousands of people, or even more, hundreds of thousands who benefit from that pension plan if it achieves their goal of getting reelected to office. So their self-interest, they try and trump the greater good of society. We should never allow any politician to do that. And I hope that there's a resounding put down, starting with the Prime Minister, who does understand fiduciary duties and responsibilities. And I hope he slaps down this minister very, very quickly and firmly and resolutely.
I think one of the best examples of this, it happens already, is the case in Quebec, which invests from time to time in Quebec companies because it wants Quebec champions. And there have been some spectacular blow-ups that have cost that pension plan like hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of pensioners' contributions, just, vamoose into thin air. That can happen,
And then I get thrown back at me all the time. Don't you care about the economy? Don't you want to see jobs created? I have no problem with that. Good. Do it through fiscal policy, the Ministry of Industry. Every provincial government and the federal government has a Ministry of Industry. It's now called ISED. I don't know why they don't go back to the old Industry, Trade and Commerce, or just call it Canadian Department of Industry. But they have subsidized companies. I don't agree with it, but they can do it through fiscal policy. But when they start playing games, and I mean playing games, and sabotaging the financial independence of the pension administrators and undermining fiduciary responsibility to whom? The people who paid into the plan, which is the pensioners present and future. That is not the minister's money. It's not Play-Doh. It's not his money. So I have a really good phrase that progressives, and he's a very famous progressive, remember what women say, get your hands off my body. I agree with that phrase. So to this minister, get your hands off our pension plans.
Okay. You're going to China soon.
I am. I teach there every year in an MBA program of my university in Shanghai.
I don't think you've been there in a few years, though. I don't think you've been there in a few years.
I taught during the COVID because they closed down physical exchanges. So for 4 years, I taught the program online, and now I'm going back. I've been teaching there since 2002, and I'm going back physically this year. Looking forward to it. I have great students, by the way. Smart. They're in their actually in their 30s.
We'll track you down. We manage to track you down usually wherever you are in this wild and crazy world. So that's in April.
And give you feedback on what's going on.
Yeah, I can't wait.
These days.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Thank you. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye. Professor Ian Lee from Carleton University. Focus Alberta. Newsday now. Next.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
Time for part one of Focus Alberta. We're doing that every Tuesday now. We're going to focus on our issues related to national unity and the state of confederation right now. And then a little bit later, we'll talk about energy policy. Pleased to welcome back Professor Duane Bratt at Royal University. Welcome back, Professor.
Good afternoon. Sorry, we're still in morning. I'm still figuring out what time zone I'm in.
Still morning there. Yeah, 10:34 in Calgary, where it's going to go up to 15 degrees tomorrow. I'm quite jealous of your weather, by the way. If you could send that this way, we'd be appreciative.
A mighty wind. Those Chinook winds sure are nice.
Yeah, especially this time of year. BC Premier David Eby really lobbed a bombshell into the middle of the First Minister's meeting last week when he accused some Alberta separatists of being traitors and saying they were committing treason by going to the United States and asking for help to leave Canada. And now he's doubling down on that in various media interviews. What do you think of those remarks?
I think they're inflammatory, but he's not the only one who thinks that. They're using a popular definition of treason. It sure doesn't meet the legal definition of treason. And I disagreed with it. I think politically, I don't have a problem with going to other countries as separatists and trying to gather support. The Quebec government has done that in France. They've done that in the United States to try to get recognition. The fact that they're not government, I don't think that makes a difference. They are the ones leading the separation charge. Where I do object is not what Jeff Rath and the others are doing in the U.S. It's the role of the U.S. government. So just as I objected to the French government intervening into Canada's internal affairs, I object to the United States. So I would not call it treason, and I don't blame the Canadians for doing so, but I do blame the U.S. government for hearing them out and for the statements that Scott Bessent made. So I want to make that clear.
Right. Just so we can expand on this a little bit more, officials in Treasury, officials in the White House have said, well, we meet with civil society types all the time. And it's not like, and we haven't made any commitments to these people. We just met with them. What do you think of that?
Well, Scott Bessent also went out and said he supported Alberta separatism, and that is the U.S. Secretary of Treasury. So I think that is very problematic. There is, despite denials, there is going to be U.S. interference in the Alberta referendum. I think there already is. You're going to see a misinformation campaign. We don't know what sort of dark money is flowing in. There may be bans on going to the organized committees, but there's lots of other ways that money can flow. And Canada's vulnerable. We saw that with the Ho Commission that looked at Chinese and Indian interference. We saw that in the Brexit issue. So to expect that that's not going to occur in Alberta, I think is completely wrong. And so that worries me. What also worries me is that there is going to be some morning I'm going to wake up and Donald Trump over the night will have tweeted out something along the lines of, I've decided we no longer want Canada as a 51st state. We just want Alberta. And I think that's, if you don't believe that Trump is going to get involved, I think you're fooling yourself.
What do you think of how Premier Smith is handling all this news?
In the one sense, I think she is correct by pushing back on the idea of treason. But she extrapolated by talking about anybody who might vote in favor of the referendum. She could have narrowed that to, Rath, Modry, Sylvester, etc. I think there's not going to be 1 million people, but there's still going to be several 100,000, and they're not traitors to Canada. So I think that was fine, but she should have said this is a decision for Albertans. This is not, she's been quick to criticize people from Ontario commenting, but not so quick to criticize Americans. So I think she should have taken a stronger line. I think Mark Carney should have taken a stronger line. And I think Pierre Poilievre could have at least acknowledged it, and that hasn't happened. Parts of Smith's answer I liked, parts I did not like.
Okay, but let's move along. Stephen Harper's time as Prime Minister is being celebrated this week in Ottawa. His official portrait will be unveiled later today on Parliament Hill. An important player in the early days of the Reform Party, went on to be president of the National Citizens Coalition, co-authored the Firewall Letter.
Yep.
If you read that Firewall Letter, so many of those issues are still alive and well. Became leader of the Canadian Alliance, helped unite the right, negotiated the merger to create the Conservative Party that we know today, led the Conservative Party to 3 election wins, 1 majority government. I want to know, what was his impact, though, on the politics of the West, do you think?
I think they were big. And I think probably the best illustration was his victory speech in 2006. You remember the rallying cry of Preston Manning and the Reformers, which was, the West wants in. These were not separatists. They just felt that Alberta was not appreciated enough in Confederation. And Stephen Harper said election night, the West is in. And so he is the longest serving Western Canadian Prime Minister. He lasted longer than John Diefenbaker. He lasted longer than R.B. Bennett. He lasted longer than Joe Clark. It was not a Western government, but it was clearly influenced by Western Canada. There were prominent ministers, whether that was, Jason Kenney, for example. And I think he had a profound effect, not just on Western Canada, but on Canada itself. And with the benefit of hindsight, his 9 years in government start to look pretty good. We tend to view things at the end, but reputations start to get rehabilitated, just as Mulroney's time in office starts to look good, and we ignore how he looked at the end of his reign. There was a reason that Stephen Harper lost the 2015 election, but those 9 years look pretty good from a vantage point of 2026. There was quiet on the federal provincial side. He navigated the financial crisis. And it was what he himself described as conservatism by inches. It wasn't about transforming the country. It was about gradually moving the country in a certain direction. And I think he did that.
Thank you so much again, Professor. Good to hear from you today.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah, bye-bye. Duane Bratt. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Time for part 2 of Focus Alberta as we concentrate on energy policy right now with Richard Masson, former CEO of the Alberta Petroleum Marketing Commission. Nice to hear from you today. Thanks for coming on our show.
Here, Rob. Yeah, good to be here.
Premier Smith said this weekend at the Conservative Party convention that her goal is to see pipelines east, west, and north. But I guess first things first, what would you say is the status of a possible pipeline from Alberta to the BC coast?
Well, I think it remains a very big lift because there's a lot of barriers to trying to get that done, particularly the experiences we've had building Trans Mountain. The expansion costs 6 times more than budget, and then Coastal GasLink, which was the natural gas pipeline that TC put in to get to LNG Canada, that was 2.3 times its original budget. Those are very expensive projects, and they demonstrate how difficult it can be to get a pipeline built. So trying to build a major new pipeline to the West Coast is even more difficult given what we've learned from those past experiences.
What is known about the application to the Major Projects Office?
Very little so far. So Alberta, is acting as a proponent, $14 million. There's a committee working on it. They have been starting to do some consultation, particularly around coastal First Nations. My understanding is it has not gone very well so far. And of course, coastal First Nations said that they don't support removing the tanker ban when Prime Minister Carney stopped there 2 or 3 weeks ago. So that's a huge challenge because that's one of these things that can prevent a pipeline from moving forward, because even if everything else goes right, those groups can still take you to court and things can get delayed for years.
If it's not Prince Rupert, what's an alternative?
The alternative that has been floated most recently is Roberts Bank, which is Tsawwassen area, south of Vancouver. And the idea would be to parallel much of the existing Trans Mountain route and try to head that way. It would allow for larger tankers, the big VLCCs. There is no tanker ban in place. So there's some benefits to that. The existing route obviously may be easier to parallel than trying to do a new route. There's, of course, challenges because there's just a lack of land. And if you're going to put in the facilities for big tankers, you need a lot of big storage tanks and things. So I don't know where Alberta's head is at as a proponent, what they're going to propose, but those are the two that seem to be on the table right now.
Okay, let's change direction just a little bit. President Trump has expressed that he's not happy with Prime Minister Carney's deal with China on EVs. But what does that mean for this country's ambitions, say, to sell more oil and gas to China?
Well, one of the things that is important to understand is once oil is on a ship, it can go anywhere. And so when Trans Mountain expansion was being developed, we thought most of the oil will end up probably in California because they have refineries that are suitable for our kind of oil. Alaska North Slope oil has been in decline. They were importing all the way from Middle East countries. But it turned out that China is the biggest buyer. They've been buying 2/3 of the oil. So once it's on a ship, the highest bidder gets it, essentially. And China has demonstrated that they're very keen to get the diluted bitumen that comes from Trans Mountain. And so, yeah, I think there's a relationship to build on there. And plus, there are Chinese companies who've been active in Western Canada for a long time. They own CNOOC. They're active, 2 companies in Syncrude. They're involved in the Duvernay and Marcellus, and they're involved in LNG Canada Phase 1. So there's lots of existing connections to build upon already.
Okay. Premier Wab Kinew, when he was in Ottawa last week, he was very bullish on a project that he calls Churchill Plus. He says this solves a lot of problems, and he was begging journalists to write about it. He says his government is going to sign an NDA with a major Canadian energy company. He didn't say which one. And he says this could get Canadian energy to new markets as well through an expanded port of Churchill, Manitoba. But how realistic is that in your opinion?
Well, energy is not oil. I would make that distinction at the beginning, because an oil pipeline essentially has to run every day of the year. You can't turn it off for 4 months of the year and just have the oil sit there and hope in the spring that it's going to work. So energy could be LNG or some other thing that they're thinking about that would allow for the seasonality right now. But I think there's a lot of momentum behind something in Hudson's Bay right now, because it's closer to the prairies where the resources are, and it provides access to Europe, which is clearly, an ally that we want to build relationships with. So I think there's a lot going on right there. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but it'll be really interesting to see if that NDA happens, if they announce who it's with and what they're looking at.
Very interesting. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, Rob.
Richard Masson, former CEO of the Alberta Petroleum Marketing Commission. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
If you're ever looking for a podcast of this show, Now You Know with Rob Snow, there is a great new mobile app that can help you hear our show when you want to. Listen live, listen to the podcast. It's called the Seeker app. That's Seeker, spelled Seekr. All kinds of exclusive audio that you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, and sports. You can download Seeker for iOS or Android. That's Seeker, spelled Seekr. And Now You Know with Rob Snow is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And there's some new podcasts that I would like to recommend, courtesy of our friends and colleagues at the Frequency Podcast Network. Brand new this week, Big Headlines. Big Headlines is an offshoot of the Big Story podcast. It's all your headlines and all in 5 minutes. Encourage you to give it a try, follow it, rate it if you can. You can also listen to that on the Seeker app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts as well. And another podcast started just this week. It is for fans of the true crime genre. Phil Martino and Madison Fitzpatrick bring you Tracking a Killer, the Cold Case Files. That started this week. Give it a try, rate it, like it. And again, that's also on the Seeker app, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. A developing story that we're watching. She's one of the best known personalities on American television, and her mother is missing. Savannah Guthrie is the co-host of the Today Show on NBC. And her 84-year-old mother, Nancy Guthrie, has been missing since around 9:30 Saturday night. And police in the Tucson, Arizona area say a crime's been committed. They say she didn't leave on her own. Speaking on CNN, Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos said the belief is Nancy Guthrie was abducted.
I've been doing this for 50 years. I have a gut feeling, but it came to me that yesterday in the early afternoon that she was abducted. We didn't know who she was, but we knew that we had this middle-aged, this mid-80s woman missing from our home. And so we have our search and rescue team out there who does great work all the time. And they are out all the time. I mean, it's almost daily. They just are. but something that they told me about that scene made me believe that there's more than just a missing person. So we wanted to continue with that search and rescue mission. Today we still hope she's alive, and we continue with those missions of search and rescue. But our efforts you just can't ignore what you're seeing at a scene, and put that off. Time is of the essence. And so we also initiated our criminal investigation team out there to start their investigation.
Nancy Guthrie was reported missing by her family around noon on Sunday. Law enforcement believes she may have been taking it at some point overnight Sunday into Monday morning. She has limited mobility because of her age, but is described to be as sharp as a tack. She also takes prescription medication. She needs to take that daily. Sheriff Nanos told CNN that right now they are scouring footage from cameras in the area.
No, we're getting a lot of leads, and a lot of that information is coming in, and we are looking at some cameras, but there's nothing specific to us. Our priority right now is the home had some cameras that we need help in the download of. They're not cloud-based. They may be on a server somewhere. But I'll be honest, we've been getting great help from not just our law enforcement partners, the FBI, the local law enforcement agencies, and our state law enforcement partners, but even private businesses, Google, Apple, name them. They're the Meta. Yeah. They've all been offering up assistance and help, and we greatly appreciate it.
Updates on that story, if any, come our way today. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day, and we have a big issue today, and here's a big question for you. The big question today for Talkback. Should Canada have its own nuclear weapons program? How's that for a question? Should Canada start building its own arsenal of nuclear weapons? What would you say? What would you say to that? No, that's ridiculous. Canada doesn't need nuclear weapons. Or would you say, yes, look around. The world's a dangerous place. Our sovereignty is at risk, and this country needs a nuclear deterrent. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. So why are we asking this today? Well, we're raising this today because it's a debate that's happening. And this question is being asked. It is a debate that's happening on social media. It is a debate that is playing out in some corners of the Canadian news media and in academia. So we want to know, what do you think of this idea? Canada becoming part of the group of countries in the world that has the bomb. What do you think of that idea? There's a news report from Steve Chase, one of the top political reporters in the countries with the Globe and Mail. He is reporting that retired General Wayne Eyre, the former chief of the defense staff in Canada, told a gathering in Ottawa that Canada should, quote, keep its options open. When he was asked if Canada should have its own nuclear weapons program, we should keep our options open. Quoting from the report, I would argue that we will never have true strategic independence absent our own nuclear deterrent. The report goes on to say, quote, nuclear weapons are not something Canada should pursue at the moment, but he noted other countries are currently wrestling with this question, and it should not be ruled out. Here in Canada, let's keep our options open, he said. We've got a good nuclear enterprise here, he said. If conditions change, we've got the civilian infrastructure. We've got the scientists, he said. He went on to say, quote, let's think about the delivery technology. So investing in our own aerospace and missile technology, let's just have the conditions in place so that if we decide to go that way, we can do it in a shorter order than some other countries who have no nuclear expertise. It's all about hedging. That's in the newspaper today. What do you think about that? 1-833-668-2577. Now, if it was just one story, that would be one thing, but there's way more than one story and more than one person saying, let's keep our options open. In fact, some people are saying, let's do it. Let's go for it. Let's start building nuclear weapons as the ultimate deterrent against our enemies. Another report, an opinion piece from someone by the name of Jean-François Bélanger, an assistant professor of military operations at the Royal Danish Defence College, said, quote, in normal circumstances, obtaining or developing nuclear weapons would be unthinkable for Canada due to the cost on its foreign relations, security, and reputation as a strong non-proliferation state. We are, however, going through uncertain times and should develop our own nuclear capacity. The idea of shoring up Canada's nuclear weapons capabilities would have been ludicrous just a few months ago. However, our new security reality forces us to ask hard and difficult questions. Canada needs to develop the means to adapt to the worst-case scenario, a continued and serious threat of annexation by the United States or an anticipated conflict with Russia in Europe or the Arctic. The territorial integrity of the country is at stake. It is time to hedge our bets. And then this from a professor at the University of Toronto, Aisha Ahmed, who writes, Trump has demanded NATO countries stop relying on the U.S. military and spend more on their own defense. Nuclear weapons acquisition complies with this demand. She goes on, once across the nuclear threshold, Canada would have a bulletproof defense of its homeland. It could then work with the UK and France as an equal and reliable partner, contributing to a democratic nuclear umbrella to protect vulnerable allies. The time for Canada to act is now, when threats are foreseeable but not imminent. Waiting until an army amasses at the border is too late. So it's out there for public consumption. Ordinary people are debating it on social media, on Reddit, on X, on Facebook. So let's have the debate right here today on Talkback. If Canada was to go in this direction, it would be a massive change in policy for this country. For more than 50 years, the policy of the Canadian government has been non-proliferation and nuclear disarmament. We signed the International Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons in 1968, ratified it in 1969. So if the government decided to start building nuclear weapons, we would need to pull out of that treaty. I find it shocking that this debate is even happening in this country, but it's happening. And there are some very smart people making the case that if we want to really guarantee our sovereignty, this is what we need to do. We have to have our own nuclear weapons program. We have the history, the technology, the raw materials, the people, so let's get at it. There's no time to waste. Let's build the bomb. Others, though, are arguing this is insanity. This is elbows up gone mad. And everyone needs to calm down before we start building nukes. Where do you come down on this? Where do you stand? Should Canada have its own nuclear weapons program? Should we start building the bomb? 1-833-668-2577. That's our call-in line. If you've never called before, just mention that. We will make your call a priority. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Should Canada have its own nuclear weapons program? What would you say? Yes, we need a nuclear deterrent to protect Canada from our enemies, or no, Canada's had a policy of non-proliferation and nuclear disarmament for decades, and it should stay that way. 1-833-668-2577. 3-4 lines available there. Love to hear from you on this one. Very interesting and important topic that we're discussing today. Grant is up in Calgary. Hello, Grant.
Hello.
Up first today. Hi, Grant. What would you say?
Well, originally I turned on the radio and heard what you're talking about. I was thinking no, but after talk of Trump and stuff like that, I don't think it'd be a bad idea to, you got guys like that threatening to annex Canada. Well, why not?
Why not? Okay. Do you really think what we're hearing from Mr. Trump is really all that serious that we would need to start building the bomb?
Like I said, I think, it would be a good deterrent. You never know nowadays. The world has changed quite a bit. So I don't know if this guy's going to stop. He's pretty unpredictable. So, it would give us a little bit of leverage in a sense.
And how do you think the Americans would react? Canada building a nuclear weapon.
Well,
Think they want a nuclear weapon? Do you think they would accept a nuclear weapon in Canada so close to the United States? I'm just asking. I don't know the answer, quite frankly.
Yeah, I don't know what they would do, but then again, they're like you said, they're saying that their allies, including us, should spend more on our defense. So yeah, it's just part of our defense. I don't see why it would be a problem if it's it just concerns our defense, our sovereignty.
Okay, pretty crazy, isn't it? That people are advocating for this. Don't you find it?
Yeah, I think
crazy?
It's a little out there, but the scary thing is that there is enough of those things around the world that all it takes is one, person to push the button at the wrong time for some unknown reason, and it could really change things for the worst.
Okay, thank you, Grant. Yeah, me either, Grant. Absolutely not. Yeah, thank you for your call. We're off and running on Talkback today. 1-833-668-2577. Should Canada have its own nuclear weapons program? Former chief of the defense staff was asked that question at a gathering of military people in Ottawa this week, and he said, well, we should keep our options open. We should keep our options open. We should keep our options open. Matt in Calgary. Thanks for calling, Matt. You're on the line. Hi, Matt.
Good morning.
Good morning, Matt. What do you think? What do you think we start building the bomb in Canada, Matt?
Not a chance. Look at what the U.S. wants to do with Iran because of their nuclear program. Can you imagine if we told them, yeah, we're going to start building nukes, what they would threaten to do to us?
You think they'd view us the same way they view Iran?
Well, I don't think they want us next door with nuclear arms. And also, come on, realistically, Canada couldn't afford it. We can't even build a national pipeline or any other big infrastructure. I can't imagine doing a whole space agency type atomic bomb program.
You don't think we would have the capacity to even do it?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Canada's next to being broke anyway, so why would we waste our time building that?
Okay, so you're kind of ruling it out altogether?
Absolutely.
Okay. And you're ruling it out because you don't think the Americans would stand for it and you don't think we have the capacity to do it?
Both, but also let's wait another 3-4 years when Mr. Trump isn't around and maybe things will go back to normal and we don't need to worry about it.
All right. Thank you. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Should we get the nukes? Should we start making nukes in Canada? What would you say to that? Love to hear from you. 1-833-668-2577 are off and running here on Talkback today. Have your say. Love to hear from you. The Tuesday Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We are asking today on Talkback, should Canada have its own nuclear weapons program? What would you say to that? What would you say? We start building nuclear weapons in this country. We just, sure, we need a nuclear deterrent. The world is a dangerous place. Or no, that is a step too far. And it would mark a huge reversal from the traditional policy in this country, which has been non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Pat is in Nova Scotia. Hi, Pat. Thanks for the call, Pat.
Good day, sir. I agree with the caller regarding the cost factor. I mean, it's almost inconceivable we could ever afford something that could defend our country, and especially this Golden Dome that the U.S. is offering. We could never. He's decimating our economy to begin with. I would never trust him to honor this Golden Dome because there would be one thing after the other. He would be insisting on no Chinese cars, no steel mills. There would always be something, and that would be figuratively kept over our heads. But my biggest concern would be that now we become a target. Okay, anybody else who has them, whereas if we stay out of it, they just pass over our heads, back and forth. We're already in the pathway of Russia and the U.S., but I think they would leave us alone if we didn't have our own. What do you think?
Well, I'll just run this by you again from the former chief of the defense staff who, only left the job less than 2 years ago. Nuclear weapons are not something Canada should pursue at the moment, says General Eyre, but said other countries are wrestling with the question. We've got a good nuclear enterprise here. If conditions have changed, we've got the civilian infrastructure. We've got the scientists. Let's invest in our own aerospace. Let's invest in our missile technology. Let's have the conditions in place so that if we decide to go that way, we can do it in shorter order than some other countries. Let's keep our options open. Keeping our options open.
Certainly. Options are no good without dollars. And it's like a car. You want to keep adding those options on. And I just don't see how we would ever be able to afford it unless the U.S. kicked in. Okay, when we become the 51st state. But I just can't see with our economy, especially the next 3 years, even considering it. Because if people think it's hard now, having money for the things we need, Trump's not going to stop, as we just discovered again over the weekend. It's going to be a never-ending stripping us of our budgets and our economy. So if someone has an answer to that, I don't think I'd have a problem with it. But we're just not going to have the money.
Okay, you don't think we can afford to do it. All right, Pat, thank you. To Cambridge, Ontario. Rob is up next. Hi, Rob.
Hey, my brother from another mother.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm very good, Rob. Yeah, thank you.
I was going to say this is very similar to a homeless person trying to book a trip to Bali in Hilton. It's never going to happen. It's delusional. We're broke.
Delusional.
As everybody said earlier, that's we don't have the money for anything like this. I believe, if you want my honest opinion, Rob, you're going to start seeing more and more of this over the next 6 months with fear mongering. They want us to be walking around scared of everything, and because I believe, as I joked with you before on another call with you and I, we're heading towards an election. The Liberals will start pushing for it big time, and you're going to see that happen. My curiosity was, did you end up seeing the clip that the gentleman talked about yesterday, Rob, with the at the
I saw
Canadian
that.
Media Summit?
Yeah, I got quite a number of emails about that, actually.
Yeah, it was. So, I mean, I think it's pretty wide open there. Like, I think they slipped. They shouldn't have said what they said, but they said the quiet part out loud.
But I would say, just first of all, I've been in the news media for close to 30 years now. I'd never even heard of that group. Never even heard of it.
Media Summit? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well,
I'd never heard of the group.
They were able even to bring the prime minister there, so they were of somebody.
Yeah, but from my understanding, is the person who was saying, we'll have your back, you'll have our back, it's more about film and television production TV series, movies, those kinds of things. Not really news media.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Let me run this one by him. Should Canada have its own nuclear weapons program? What would you say? It's a nuclear deterrent. Does Canada need to start building nuclear weapons? 1-833-668-2577. 4 lines available. Wait won't be long. It's Talkback on News Radio. Let's go to Stuart in Calgary today. Hello, Stuart.
Good morning.
Yeah, hi, Stuart. What's your opinion?
I'd like to say they want to take our handguns away and rifles away, but they want to build the bomb. Right? What sense does that make?
Well, I'm not saying the government wants to. I'm not saying that the government is saying we should build the bomb, but we have some pretty high-profile people who are saying we should hedge our bets and keep our options open.
Well, I think it's one of these things. Nobody's going to win out of this discussion. They're going to do what they want to do.
What do you mean by that? They're going to do what they want to do. What do you mean by that?
Well, okay, for example, our in Calgary, we got this problem with our water. And instead of listening to people saying, well, build another line, a bypass line right beside where you dug up. No. They just put the one line in, bury it, and now we got more problems. So now they're going to build a line side by each. So they're going to do whatever they want to do. And it just bugs me that they didn't think of it themselves, and somebody else has the idea, and they won't accept it. They just let it. No, we didn't think of that. That's not a year and a half, year down the road.
Right. Oh, sure.
Oh, we should have built another bypass line there. Or,
okay.
I'm getting off the topic here.
No. But what you're talking about is being prepared, right? That they were warned. You have to be prepared that, this could fail, whatever the case might be. It was a well-known problem for decades and decades. Right.
And they won't take
so
any
that's what these people are saying. That's what these people are saying. Well, we should really start to think about having our own nuclear weapons program. We need to be prepared for any eventuality. And the situation with the United States being what it is means we have to contemplate things that we've never had to contemplate before.
Yeah, well, where are we going to test these missiles? Like, take them over to Iran and test them over there?
Well, we have lots of land to test nuclear weapons here.
Yeah, you're destroying property. You're making a bigger mess for the economy, for atmosphere, or what about this Greenpeace thing? Like, there's so many things involved here that they're just stirring the pot here. I think they're
stirring the pot.
Yeah, they're making
the former chief of the defense staff seems to think it would actually be good for businesses that are in that area, what he calls the nuclear enterprise.
Well, I don't know if we can afford it.
I don't know if we can afford it. But how much can you put a price on your sovereignty?
Well, I'm just saying, like, how much have they spent on these long rifles and taking them away? They could have built the bomb already without even having this discussion.
Well, I mean, it's tens of millions of dollars that they've spent so far on the gun buyback program, but I understand your point. Okay, I understand your point, Stuart. Thank you. Let's go to Jordan. Is in Halifax, Nova Scotia today. Hello, Jordan.
Hello, Rob. How's it going?
Very good, Jordan. What do you think? Should we start building the bomb?
No, I think that's just the most ridiculous thing I've heard. Like, well, build to protect us from who? That building the bomb is right up there with people that believe America.
China. You say who? China, Russia. And now, potentially, the people who are saying this, potentially the United States.
The United States are not going to invade Canada. They're going to protect us if anybody ever tries to invade us, like they've always been there to do. They got more nuclear weapons there. We're just going to start now and think we can compete with them. It's just a waste of money. Where's the money coming from? Tax dollars? Pretty sure it can go into better places than building a nuclear bomb. protect from China. Everything we sell here is from China. They're not going to come and invade us. Like, these topics that these people come up with, I don't understand. It's the same as people believing that America's going to invade Canada sometime. Like, we got to stop blaming Trump for everything that's wrong here and look at who's been running this country for the last 10, 12, however long it's been. Before that, we got to look here in our own government, not waste money building nuclear bombs.
Okay. Again, just to circle back from these comments that were in the paper from the former chief of the defense staff, okay, General Eyre. We've got a good nuclear enterprise here. We've got the civilian infrastructure. We've got the scientists. Let's think about delivery technology, invest in our aerospace, invest in missile technology. So we have the pieces in place in case we decide to go this way, he says. Let's hedge our bets. Let's keep our options open. What do you think about that?
We are so far behind. America could just come, if they wanted to, pretty well almost any country, they're that powerful. We're going to start building nuclear bombs to go. They've got hundreds and hundreds of them up there, like, or down there. For one, where's the money coming from?
Yeah, 5,500. Well, again, I come back to this. We do have a defense industry in this country. We do have an aerospace industry in this country. It would be good for that industry. It'd be good for that industry.
Not nuclear bombs, no. I don't think nuclear bombs would be any good for the industry, no. But I want to know where the money's coming from. It's obviously our tax dollars.
Okay. Thank you for your call. 1-833-668-2577. Again, I just read this recent piece. Trump has demanded NATO countries stop relying on the U.S. military and spend more on their own defense. Nuclear weapons acquisition complies with this demand. Once it crossed that threshold, we would have a bulletproof defense of our homeland. The time to act is now. Waiting until an army amasses at the border is too late. Advocating for the creation of a nuclear weapons program in Canada. What do you think about that? 1-833-668-2577. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We are going through uncertain times, says Assistant Professor of Military Operations, Royal Danish Defence College, Jean-Francois Boulanger. So the idea of shoring up Canada's nuclear weapons capabilities would have been ludicrous just a few months ago. However, our new security reality forces us to ask hard and difficult questions. Canada needs to develop the means to adapt to the worst-case scenario, a continued and serious threat of annexation by the United States or an anticipated conflict with Russia in Europe or the Arctic. The territorial integrity of the country is at stake. It's time to hedge our bets. We should develop our nuclear capacity. We should start building nuclear weapons in this country. What do you think about that idea? We start building the bomb in Canada. Mike in Calgary, what do you think of that idea, Mike? Hello, Mike. How about Heather? Let's go to Heather. My apologies. Heather.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Heather. I hear you just fine. Yep, go ahead.
So my thought is, if we have nuclear bombs in Russia and we have them in the U.S. and all these other countries, if one country hits the button, other countries are going to retaliate, and it won't matter if Canada has bombs because we're going to all be dead anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. Mutually assured destruction. What about just the deterrent of having one?
I don't think it will make a difference. If
you don't think it would
Russia
make a difference?
Wants to attack, or somebody wants to attack us, they're going to attack us anyway. Whether we have
that if we had a nuclear weapons capability, we had nuclear missiles, ICBMs, or whatever, any of this, it would act as any kind of deterrent?
No.
No?
I mean, how long have we been having the discussion about nuclear bombs? I mean, I grew up in the 80s. We had,
Decades.
And with Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they're a perfect example of what a nuclear bomb will destroy. So even if we say, yep, we have nuclear bombs, if somebody wants to, and even if we did, we can say, yep, we have nuclear bombs, but Russia goes after the U.S., U.S. goes after Russia, we're next door, we're going to blow up anyway. Like, it's not like it's just going to affect that particular country where that bomb goes off. It's going to affect everything. We're going to have, nuclear winter, and we won't have food, and we won't be able to grow food, and so I think
I'm just saying, one of the people, an academic, is saying it calls it a bulletproof defense of our homeland.
No.
No, you disagree.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
Not a lot of people are interested in Canada pursuing nuclear weapons. I thought there might be a few out there, nuclear hawks, I would say. But Heather, thank you for your call. Hard no from Heather. Mike, let's try Mike. This time in Calgary. Mike.
Hey, Rob.
Hi, Mike.
Am I on the air here, Rob?
You are. Yes, Mike. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for taking my call. First-time caller.
You're welcome. I appreciate that.
Anyway, if Canada were to jump into the nuclear circus, let's call it, for lack of a better description, and do you think that Donald's going to sell us any type of aircraft to carry a bomb like that? B-52, B-1 bomber, B-2 Spirit? How are we going to, if we even attempted something like this, how would we deliver these bombs? Get de Havilland to build some aircraft or Bombardier?
Well, we're going to buy some submarines.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can imagine what those are going to be like. Those will sit in docks probably for months and months and months, maybe years.
Okay. We don't necessarily have to buy, say, the F-35. A lot of people think we shouldn't anyway, just because of the way the relationship is. We should buy the Gripen, right, from Sweden.
Well, myself on that take, I would be more apt to see Super Hornets. You could. It's an upgraded version of the CF-18, well, the F-18. Sorry, the Super Hornet's a much more capable airplane, I think, than the Griffins. And whether you'd get some of those from the U.S., that'd be hard pressed to say.
But just on the face of it, the case is being made. We can't rely on the United States. The world is increasingly precarious and dangerous. We have to protect ourselves. We need a deterrent for the homeland, for the defense of the homeland. And as unthinkable as it may be to some, this is it. We have to have a nuclear weapons program in this country. What do you think of that?
Well, Donald could walk across the border there into Alberta from Montana with, 50 tanks, or send up a B-52, and there goes Western Canada. Then fly up a couple more over your area. There goes Toronto. There goes Ottawa. There goes Montreal. He would crush this country in 2 days.
All right. Again, would he do that if we had our own nuclear capabilities?
He would probably strike first. Where are we even going to have the reaction time? And if we were to initiate any sort of attack on them, well, you could, we'd become a land full of radiation at the least. There'd be nothing left of this country if we were to initiate any sort of attack. They have silos in Montana. I believe they're just north of Great Falls. Great Falls has a pretty big Air Force base. I'm not sure what kind of aircraft are stationed there. I don't believe there's any B-52s. I think those would come out of North Dakota. They're Minot.
Okay. So again, the territorial integrity of the country is at stake. It's time to hedge our bets. We would have a bulletproof defense of our homeland. You don't buy any of this.
Well, I don't think so. Like a couple of callers back, there one guy basically put the blame on the Liberal government for the last 12, 13 years of how this country has gotten divided and made Trump the enemy. Trump. They seem to blame Trump for everything, but I hear the music. I'll give
okay. Yeah, you think this is in keeping with that? I appreciate that. It's a very popular opinion. Thank you. Be right back. Should Canada build the bomb? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Rick in Dartmouth. What do you think, Rick? Should we have our own nuclear weapons program in Canada?
Well, it's great that you're pronouncing it right. It's the world's most mispronounced English word. It's not nuclear, it's nuclear.
I know.
And
Don't believe me. I had that drilled into my head at broadcasting school. Rick,
I know. But look, there's a couple of things. One, it's foolish to think of nuclear weapons as defensive. It's somebody nukes you, it's pretty much over in terms of occupying cities, et cetera, et cetera. So somebody'd have to be real pissed off at Canada to nuke us. I don't think we're really in that game. But yeah, you've got to think about what happened when Iran tried to make it a nuclear program in their little country, and which it kind of has some legit reasons for doing that. Depending on what you think about the politics, doesn't matter. It's what's their reality. And the other thing is, you can't take over a country by nuking them, because you need hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of soldiers to do a ground invasion. Imagine the United States becoming our nemesis and wanting to nuke us.
Well, some people think it already is our nemesis. Some people think it is our nemesis right now.
Look, there's two things. Trump is going to be decapitated at the midterms. I mean, he has alienated, I'd say, 80% of his base by not doing any of the things that he promised to do. Lots of the pundits who were supporting Trump have bailed on it. The Epstein files, I mean, that's just another crazy legs thing going on. You don't want to even talk about what's in that. So I'm not worried about Trump in the least. Certainly I'm not worried about Russia either, because they have more Arctic coastline than us. They don't need any more Arctic. And the Arctic seems to be what I call a red herring to me.
You think so? Okay. I'm just saying, in these pieces that have been popping up in the news media from time to time, we read these lines like continued and serious threat of annexation by the United States. We can't wait until an army amasses at the border. We need to build the bomb, they say. And they don't sound like crazy people. They don't sound like crazy people. And the former head of the chief of the defense staff says we have to keep our options open. Let's keep our options open in case we have to go in that direction. Crazy. 1-833-668-2577. Back right after the latest breaking news. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Should Canada have its own nuclear weapons program? We've been debating that today here on Talkback with your help. What would you say? We need a nuclear deterrent to protect Canada from our enemies, or no? We have had a policy of non-proliferation and nuclear disarmament for decades in this country. It should stay that way. 1-833-668-2577. Should we get nukes? Should we get nukes? This is what I'm reading about in the news these days. This is where we are now in this debate, with so many thinking out loud about what this country should be doing to get ready to defend itself. Nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons. Should we have our own nuclear weapons? Some people have been making the case that we should begin having our own nuclear weapons program in Canada. What do you think? 1-833-668-2577. Joe is in Kitchener. Thanks for waiting, Joe. You're on the line, Joe.
So Rob, it comes down to who, when, why. Who are you going to launch it against? When? And why? But the more important question that everybody's missing is how. Because last time I checked, what do we launch a new satellite every other week here? No, no, we pay guys like Elon Musk to launch our satellites for us, and that's not realistic. So how are you going to deliver the system? I mean, we're cutting edge when it comes to developing nuclear technology with the CANDU reactors. That's not the problem. It's the how. Do you have a delivery system set up that nobody knows about? No. Oh, you want to buy an off-the-shelf Minute-Maid program? Minuteman? Really? They're going to ask you why. What do you want this for? Well, we want to launch a nuclear weapon. Okay. You want to talk to us a little more closely about that? Because, last time I checked.
I think the idea would be, it would be a deterrent, and we hope we would never have to use this.
Yeah, you only have to build one for everybody to take you seriously. It just takes one. But
and again, if I could circle back, Joe, because what the former chief of the Defense Staff, General Eyre, is saying, well, let's invest in the delivery technology. Let's invest in the Canadian aerospace. Let's invest in the missile technology.
That's
Quote, let's have the conditions in place. Let's have the conditions in place so that if we decide to go that way, we can do it in shorter order than some other countries who have no nuclear enterprise.
Some kind of wild delivery system, on the cheap. Because, last I checked, that cost some money, man. Like what? Who's working on that? How are you going to deliver it?
Again, I come back to this. We're exploring buying new aircraft for the military. We're exploring buying new submarines. You launch nuclear weapons from submarines for sure.
All right. Well, yeah.
Right.
Let me know how that goes for you.
Okay. You think it's crazy?
I take it with a grain of salt, Rob. I'm not taking it very seriously, and I don't think anybody else should either, to be honest with you.
All right, fair enough. Let's get real. Okay, popular opinion today. Andre is in Kitchener. Thanks for calling, Andre. You're on the line. What do you think, Andre?
Hi, Rob. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, you're welcome. What's your opinion here?
Well, my answer is hell no. We are, like I said many times in the past on your show, I had a cousin and a cousin-in-law that were in the Army, and the biggest problem I find is the equipment that we have. It's very embarrassing. It's very old, and I think to me that would be the most important, is to keep our soldiers safe. That would be one. Two, we are a peace country, and no matter what happens in the world, I think we should keep it that way. Yes, we should keep elbows up with Trump, but not, like he said, cripple us economy. That's his plan, of course. But we have strong leaders, kind of like Doug Ford when he said, we'll cut your power down. You know what I mean? A bully, you got to bully back. I don't like.
How long did that last? That didn't last very long. Within 2 days, Doug Ford backed down on that.
True. But the thing is that what I'm saying now with Carney is I'm very afraid, because with his trip to Europe and with his experience in England, I really have a feeling that he's dealing a lot with NATO for our security. But I truly believe in my blood that the United States would never touch us physically. And my last point, Rob, if you can answer it, what happened with the balloon that crossed from the north and got shut down, or even one that it got caught in a storm, they couldn't find it no more, with China? And now Carney is dealing with Chinese vehicles. So I don't understand what was that about.
Okay. Again, I just come back to this and what these people are writing. The territorial integrity of the country at stake. It is time to hedge our bets. The time for Canada to act is now, when threats are foreseeable. The threat is foreseeable, they're claiming, but not imminent. But we shouldn't be waiting until an army amasses at the border. Then it's too late. So the case is being made, and Andre, I thank you for your call. We have to look at building nuclear weapons in this country. It would be a bulletproof defense of the homeland. Goes one of the arguments. But what do you say? 1-833-668-2577. Those calls coming. Welcome to hour number 2. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The main question of the day, should Canada have its own nuclear weapons program? Let's go to Elmsdale, Nova Scotia. Carl is on the line. Hello, Carl.
Hey, how you doing, Rob?
Yeah, very good, Carl. What would be your opinion on this one?
I think it's obvious. We need to have a nuclear deterrent in this country. Every other country of any size has it. Look at India and Pakistan. They would be at war for the last 20 years or whatever if they didn't have nuclear deterrent. Look to see what happened to Ukraine when they gave theirs up on a false promise or whatever. And yeah, sure, it would be a long process for us to get geared up and everything, but that's the road we're on right now, is to build up our military, and I think that's one of the options that we have that we should be going towards.
We've talked to almost 20 people today here on Talkback, Carl, and you're the only one who has said we should do this. You're very much in the minority today. I'm curious what you thought of the other people who are the opinion, not necessarily the personalities, but the opinion of the others who say, we don't need to do this. This is ridiculous. Things like that.
The world is changing. And as you can see, the examples I gave there of countries that don't have them, that are being overtaken by other countries. I'm sure Taiwan is another country. I'm sure they're not nuclear armed, and China can take them over any day they want to, right? And the same with Greenland. When Britain and France and Germany got involved, he stepped back because they're nuclear armed countries. And it's just a deterrent. Nobody's ever going to use them, but just the fact that you have them, the populations of those countries are going to say, no, let's compromise on some other way before we get to that point. So sadly, it's a deterrent that countries need when they're faced with, we never know what's going to happen in the U.S. Trump could be gone in a couple of years or whatever, but that's not to say that the population down there doesn't vote in some other wing nut, right? So I mean, it's I think we need to have that deterrent in this country. That's my opinion.
All right, I thank you for sharing it, Carl. As I said, Carl's the only one who has called so far today to say, yeah, that's a good idea, and Canada should be pursuing that, a nuclear weapons program. Joe is in Calgary. Thanks for calling, Joe. You're on the line.
Hey, Rob, how you doing?
Yeah, very good, Joe. What's your opinion? Should we build the bomb?
First of all, I want to say I'm sorry that I can't push this nice weather over to you. I'm trying.
Yeah, well, try your best. I said yesterday, in the spirit of Confederation, I want weather equalization. Okay, it's going to be 15 degrees in Calgary. In the spirit of Confederation, it seems only fair that given that I'm in Quebec, you should have to, in Calgary, send 10 of those degrees here. That's the way Canada works, okay?
Yeah, no doubt. As far as becoming a nuclear country, you know what? How many countries in this world, non-nuclear countries, are nuclear targets? I'm just guessing, but I'm betting you it's zero. And the problem is, if we get nuclear weapons, suddenly we're a nuclear target. And it's in the state's best interest, no matter what's going on with the both of us right now, it's in their best interest to provide that nuclear deterrent for us. Because if we get invaded or nuclear strike, they're next. And I think we know it.
Well, to Carl's point, you say, well, who, what non-nuclear powered country with no nuclear weapons as a target? Look at Taiwan and how it's being bullied by China. Now, some people say Taiwan is its own country. China doesn't see it that way. Let's, think of Greenland, part of Denmark, and what we just went through with that. Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine gave up all of its nuclear weapons after the fall of the Soviet Union, right?
Yeah, no,
just a few examples.
That is definitely a thought that, we need to address that. However, I don't believe us having nuclear weapons is a smart thing because, like I said, we would definitely be a target then nuclearly. Excuse me.
So you don't think we should do it? No?
No, I don't. No, I
don't
think it's
so.
crazy to do it. Yeah.
You think it'd be crazy? Okay. Yeah, well, that's the majority opinion today. All right, we'll stop here. 3-4 lines available there. Lots of time to take your call today on Talkback. Pretty hot topic today. Pretty big question. Should Canada start building nuclear weapons? The case is being made. We have to hedge our bets. We have to provide a bulletproof defense for the country. Our sovereignty is at risk. And we need the most powerful deterrent there is, the nuclear deterrent. What do you think? Have your say. Talkback News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We have been asking today on Talkback, should Canada have its own nuclear weapons program? What would you say? To deter our enemies and protect Canada? Or no, we've had a policy of non-proliferation nuclear disarmament for more than 50 years in this country. It would be ineffective, and we should maintain the current policy. 1-833-668-2577. Have your say on Talkback. 3-4 lines available there. Wait won't be too long. Zach is in Calgary today. Hi, Zach.
Hey, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, very good, Zach. Thank you. Go ahead. What's your opinion?
Well, Trump derangement syndrome has officially gone nuclear.
Why do you say that?
I'm going to approach this from a couple different angles and just see what you think. But the quick answer is, should we build nuclear weapons? Bleep no.
Right.
Well, first of all, developing weapons of indiscriminate slaughter would be a profound moral failure, both by traditional standards and our modern standards. The U.S. spends roughly $50 to $60 billion annually to maintain their arsenal. So to start from the ground up, it'd probably be like $100 billion. So, and I highly doubt the U.S. would just let Canada build a Rocky Mountain Fordo too. And like you said earlier, we'd have to withdraw from our treaties, and it would kind of turn us into a pariah state overnight, demolishing our international reputation.
Well, maybe not, because there are other countries, allies of Canada, who are having the very same debates right now. Germany, Poland, and others.
Yeah, I like to call it almost like a man-child defense. It's very ironic. Instead of strategic independence, it's actually an admission of extreme dependence, and it's a panic response from an establishment that realizes it hollowed out its own house for decades, and it's now terrified of its neighbor who expects to pay the bills.
Yeah, I was wondering if people would say this is elbows up, run amok, if this is hysteria, just given the current political climate. Is that what you think?
Yeah, I do, and my kind of point with that is that, after September 11th, the height of the Cold War, all of these things that have happened from, the end of World War II to now, we've never had this conversation. The opposite, actually. But as soon as Trump gets in office, it's just the boogeyman, right? We're going hysterical. And it's getting into I don't take it literally, but I take it seriously, the mentality.
All right. Canada, again, this is one of the experts. Canada needs to develop the means to adapt to the worst case scenario, a continued and serious threat of annexation by the United States. Does that exist right now? A continued and serious threat of annexation by the United States. The territorial integrity of the country is at stake. It's time to hedge our bets. That's one of the opinions that is out there.
Are you asking me, like, if the
do you
United
think
States
we have a continued
Canada
and serious threat of annexation by the United States? Because that's one of the rationales being put forward from people who are promoting the creation of our own nuclear weapons program, because we face a continued and serious threat of annexation by the United States. Or is that Trump derangement syndrome, as you said?
I think you and I kind of know the answer to that, but I think the sovereignty issue is definitely more an interior problem based on two provinces drumming up separatist sentiments. But I just think like I said before, I just think this would be a profound moral failure, creating indiscriminate weapons that can't discriminate between
weapons
a
of mass
child and a
destruction.
combatant.
Weapons of mass destruction, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. As a reminder, and this is in many of the news stories reporting on this, we are signatories to the Treaty on Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. We did that in 1968. We signed that agreement, ratified it in 1969. The people who are contemplating Canada creating its own nuclear weapons programs are saying, can always pull out of those treaties. We don't have to be part of those treaties. We'll pick it up right after the latest breaking news. I'm Rob Snow. It's Talkback. It's News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
I have to say, a few months ago on Talkback, we were debating things that were a little less drastic than building the bomb. But that's, it's in the paper today. Should Canada have its own nuclear weapons program? That's what we're asking. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Colin is in Calgary. Thanks for waiting, Colin. You're on the air. Hi, Colin.
Yes.
Yes.
I was just wondering how many, who's to say we don't already have a nuclear?
Proponents of the current site say it worsens safety and negatively affects businesses. Proponents say the site save lives.
I don't know what that is. I was hearing you, and then I was hearing the radio. I don't know what I'm hearing now. Are you with me, Colin?
Weird. Yeah, I'm still there.
All right, good. Yes,
So
go ahead. You were wondering who
whether-
says who knows? Maybe we have one already. Is that your suspicion?
Yes. Well, I already know we do.
Well, you already know we do. How do you know that?
Well, my father-in-law, which has passed away now, used to be one of the head nuclear disarmament people around. And he had to disarm several nukes that were going into certain areas because they had to drop them in water. So I know that we do have them. It's very secretive from what I've heard. It was basically said that we were never to have nukes on Canadian soil. We've had nukes on Canadian soil for years. Okay? Just that they didn't want to rattle everybody's chain saying that we had them. Now, we were also, I want to bring up the agreement that was made when we had to get rid of the Avro with the U.S., that the U.S. was supposed to take care of Canada if we gave up the Avro to the U.S. Whatever happened to that? Nobody's ever said anything about that.
I don't know. I think that's kind of a conversation for another day. But you're saying we already have them. We're just not telling anyone.
Right.
Do we have the capability to launch them?
Yes.
We do?
We do.
Because people have been calling and asking, I'm no expert. What do I know about that? I'm just asking this question. How would we launch them?
We already have
about that?
jets that will we can launch them off of the jets. There's nuclear capability off of the aircraft that we have right now.
From the CF-18?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where are these nuclear weapons? Spill the beans if you know.
I don't really care about the nuclear weapons. I would rather set up a system that we would do defense to prevent any of those things from getting into Canada. Put our money into that.
Oh, like missile defense, like a Golden Dome, Star
defense.
Wars. Right. Okay. Yeah,
Because
sure.
how much of that do we have? Virtually none. Because we were relying on the U.S. to stop anything coming into Canada so it doesn't hit the U.S.
Well, we cooperate with NORAD, of course, on that. And now we're building new radar bases. We closed a lot of radar bases, but we're building new ones now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've had quite a few in northern part of Canada that was decommissioned. Now we should be bringing them back.
Right. Yeah. In fact, in this part of the country, there's a bit of a local scandal about that because they're trying to build a new radar base, but a lot of people, farmers and whatnot, are upset because they're expropriating a lot of farmland to actually build the radar base.
Big deal. We need them.
Okay. Thank you. But you say we already have them. Yeah, you say they already have them. A few people mentioned that to me today, not on the air, but speculated. What if we... Do you think we already have them and we're just not telling anybody? I don't know. I have no idea. Will in Castlegar. Will. Hi, Will.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Will, even if we have them, should we build some more? I guess you could say.
I don't think so. I will give you a couple of moments here, Robert, because I enjoy your show very much and I listen to it every morning.
Thank you.
Now, I just want people to reflect a little bit. Just go back to 19. I'm going to read here. I'm 68 years old. My father was in the First and Second World War. He was Army Guard in the Second World War in Oklahoma. Now, of course, I'm Canadian. We're all Canadian. But he was based there through the Canadian Army and the U.S. Army Incorporation as a prison guard. Now, let's go back to 1945. On the 6th of August, 1945, the United States detonated two atomic bombs in the cities of Japanese cities in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I guess it's called.
Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Yeah, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I don't have my speakerphone on, so I have to read as I'm talking.
That's okay.
Now, there was only 250,000 people, civilians, that were killed in that explosion. Okay? Now, if we look at today, how many people we have on our country, Canada, and how many people on the border of the United States that live on the border. If anything happened to Canada or the United States, it'd be a heck of a lot more than 250,000 people.
Oh, sure.
And
the modern weapons are much more powerful than they were.
Could wipe out an entire province, if not half the country. And then the other half will die because of nuclear fallout. People want that? Do you really, really, really want that? Like, come on. Like, the devastation today is not dropping a peanut into a well. It's dropping an entire big, huge rock in the well and feel the splash. And I'm sorry.
The people that are advocating for it are saying that it would offer us, and I'm quoting here, a bulletproof defense of our homeland. It would be the ultimate deterrent.
It'd be a bulletproof. It'd be a hole in our fabric like you would not believe. It would destroy our fabric. Thank you very much.
Destroy the fabric of the country. Well, thank you, Will. Thank you for your call today, and thank you for listening. To Talkback, more of your calls just ahead on the topic of the day. A homemade nuclear weapons program for Canada? What do you think of that? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Should we build some nukes? Should Canada have its own nuclear weapons program? What would you say? That's the topic of the day on Talkback. Kip is in Calgary. Hi, Kip.
Hello, how are you doing today?
Yeah, very good, Kip. What's your opinion?
I think that is a terrible idea, is to build nuclear weapons. We have the United States as our neighbor, and they have all the arsenal that we will ever need.
Okay. The case is being made that they're not our friends anymore. We can't count on them anymore.
But what case is this? Who's saying that we cannot count on them? The Liberal government, Carney? He is only out for himself. He's not out for Canada.
Okay, that's not who I'm citing. I'm just raising a few people who are advocating for this, who have written in the news media. I've said we should, because we can't count on the United States anymore, we should explore moving ahead with our own nuclear weapons program.
Okay, so if we do go ahead and get nuclear weapons, how long will this take and how much money is this going to spend? There's millions of people in the food line right now.
It would take years and cost probably tens of billions of dollars. Easily.
Exactly. And is there money for this when in the state of our economy right now, we're worried about building nuclear weapons? This seems absolutely crazy to be doing.
Crazy.
We need to work. Okay. We need to work on what we're doing here and not worry about what everyone else is doing.
Okay. Again, I quote, for example, because this was in one of the papers, Assistant Professor Military Operations, Royal Danish Defence College, Jean-Francois Belanger. The territorial integrity of the country is at stake. It's time to hedge our bets.
This is pure
fear-mongering? You dropped out there. Did you say fear-mongering? Oh, we've lost his internet connection. Yeah, we lost your internet connection. Gonna have to run. Let's go to Fen, is in Waterloo today. Hi, Fen.
Hello.
Hi, Fen. What do you think? Let's start building the bomb. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we should. I've got a couple brief points to make. Yeah, I do think we should.
Okay.
Number one, Ukraine gave up theirs. Look how that's going, right?
Yeah.
Number two, North Korea has them. I think even just saying that, if you put it in that perspective, it's like, well, maybe a responsible country like us should have them as well. And I understand that's proliferation, and I get the pros and cons for both sides. Someone mentioned earlier that our country has kind of hollowed out itself, and I think they were referring to just the state of how a lot of people say the Liberals have left this country, though I'm sure the Conservatives really haven't done much under Stephen Harper for our own sovereignty either. That could be debated. But this is one good way of, asserting our sovereignty. That's kind of what the Americans want. They don't want us to be, relying on them. They want us to pay our share. And so I'm be surprised that people would be against it, to be honest. Someone also mentioned how would we launch them? Well, you start small. There's mobile units, like those big trucks with the missile launchers. Someone will probably sell them to us. If not, we're a smart, industrious nation. We can figure it out. The main thing is deterrence. We don't have to compete with the superpowers, Russia, China, U.S. You just have to be part of the club, and that's what it is. It's a deterrence. And the last thing I'll say is I think people forget how close we are, how close we have been on the edge of nuclear war ever since the 1950s.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, just there's been like the Bay of Pigs in Cuba, or right now, like Putin's been saying, like, just try me, right? They keep hinting at it. He won't launch a nuclear strike on any other country that has nuclear weapons. It's the deterrence, right? He won't launch them on Ukraine either, because he wants to keep Ukraine. He doesn't want it to be a nuclear wasteland. But either you're part of the club or you're not. Yeah, it'd be expensive, but I mean, it's an industry. It could create jobs. I think it's it could be one of the things that we need to do in order to protect our country, because we are exposed. I mean, everyone's talking about Greenland. Look at a map. Like, we can't defend ourselves, right? And certainly people mention Trump deranged syndrome. Take it from him. He's the one saying all these things. So, yeah, I think
you're in the minority opinion today. You're one of only two callers who have said, this is worth exploring. But a valid opinion and well argued. Thank you for your call. Be right back. They cornered David McGuinty, the defense minister, on his way into a meeting, Liberal Party meeting on Parliament Hill today. So we'll let you hear what he had to say about this idea. That's coming right up. And more of your calls on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So we have been asking today, should Canada have its own nuclear weapons program? The overwhelming response has been no, we don't need to do that. There have been a few callers, not many today, who say, yeah, I think that's a good idea. It's a dangerous world. We need the nuclear deterrent to protect our country from our enemies. John is up next in Kitchener. Hi, John.
Hi, Rob.
What do you think,
Great
John?
show. Thanks to you and your crew. You put on a good show, and it's always worth listening to.
Well, thank you. That's very kind.
And I'm going to fall into that minority because I think we should consider it carefully, but it's a slight shift for me from, say, 20, 25 years ago. I would have said absolutely. The reason I backed off a little is because our nuclear industry has been kind of watered down. We make great reactors. We have heavyweight water capability. We have refineries, and we have the uranium. So we have everything we need here to do that. But the question I'd ask is, who is the real threat? And if people say, well, it's the states, they're not going to nuke us because they want the resources. If they hit southern Ontario, the Great Lakes are ruined for them, and they want our water. If they go to the west, they're going to hit the oil, and they won't be able to get that out. It's who is the threat? That's the real question.
Well, who do you view as the threat? That it has to be Russia and China by default?
I don't really see them as a threat because anyone that wants to invade isn't going to nuke. But I think we should be part of that club, as your previous caller said. It's just what's the cost going to be and how much interference are we going to get from these other countries that might not want us in the club? It wouldn't be as extreme as Trump bombing, was it Iran or Iraq that he hit last year? I can't remember.
Iran. To take out the nuclear capability.
Yeah, and is that going to be
bunker-busting bombs, right?
Yeah,
to get
we have
deep
to consider.
down. Yeah.
Got to consider if that's a threat for us. It might not be, but that's something we have to think about. And that's going to go into the equation. I know we've got people smarter than me thinking about this.
Yeah, but it seems to me, just reading some of the reaction online, social media, the comment section on the news websites, people aren't really talking so much about, Iran, but hemispheric domination is one of the themes of the Trump administration's foreign policy document, and people bring up Cuba and the Cuban Missile Crisis. And would the United States tolerate a nuclear weapon in its own hemisphere that isn't American? And I think that's an interesting question. Even if it is Canadian.
They wouldn't resort to nukes to stop us, but there would be espionage and other conventional methods. This is a slight diversion, but I remember hearing conversations a couple of years ago about our military should actually be focusing on being sort of an international rescue organization and just develop the goodwill of the country. Now, things have changed, and that's no longer a viable option. But that was something I thought would be a wonderful dream if we could focus our military to be a rescue organization more so than a defense organization. But as for nukes, we need to think about it.
Need to think about it. All right. Thank you. I think we only have about 60 seconds, Nathaniel. So if you can say your piece quickly. Bombs away.
I think yes, because it would be nice to have that much deterrence, but no, because one, it'll alienate the U.S. Two, I doubt any countries will will invade it in the near future, and if they do, the countries that do will have many more. So if we use our nuke or nukes against them, we'll be completely obliterated.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for all your calls today. Very interesting discussion, isn't it? Some things you never thought you'd be talking about on the radio. Should Canada pursue a nuclear weapons program? Brand new topic tomorrow, and more of your calls. And always the latest breaking news. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.